Hey there guys, this is DMO73 bringing you some commentary for Game 1, Round 1 of Caturday at Gauntlet. That was on May 30th. This is going to be a odd Grimm Aggro kind of introspective every single round. So we're going to be following Chris Durand of Force of Will 101 over there on the left as he plays through his rounds, facing off against all the different kinds of decks that people decided to bring to the event. So as I said, on the left we have Chris Durand playing odd Grimm Aggro, and on the right here for Game 1 we have Stephen Naumovski. He was playing I believe a Bahamut Burn, a red-black Bahamut Burn deck. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started, and I'll be providing your commentary for this game. So we are going to be starting out with the draw. I see pretty good hands already from both sides. A Whisper in the Dark, something I see on the on Steven's side, which is a little bit odd for a Bahamut deck, but I would be interested to see why he decides to play that. He's going to mulligan 3. I believe Chris mulliganed 1 at tops. This deck is very consistent, doesn't need to mulligan very much. So here we go. Let's get started. Chris is going to be going first. He gets that quick little basic redstone. This deck doesn't really need to utilize many multi-stones because of Grimm's special ability. Plays that early game Tinkerbell in hopes of being able to flood the board with some fairy tales later. Steven hits the Scorched Bale's red-black stone off the top. And he's thinking about playing a Rapid Decay to take care of that Tinkerbell right now. That's a good idea. Tinkerbell can get very big very quickly, but he decides to go to try to get that early damage, that 300 damage to Chris, bringing him down to 3,700. Hitting another one of those basic redstones. Plays out his own Hunter, which is going to immediately give a buff to Tinkerbell, and then another one, which is going to make Tinkerbell even bigger. So that's a full 600 damage that Tinkerbell has. And just going to just quickly be able to wipe the floor with that Hunter, and then swing in with his own 2 Hunters to deal 600 damage total, bringing Steven down to 34. So I don't really know what Steven was doing looking at his J ruler. I don't know why. Maybe he was just still trying to remember exactly what it does, because you technically shouldn't be doing that, but he's trying to find out how much power Tinkerbell has right there. Quick Rapid Decay used now to get rid of the Tinkerbell. I could see why, either way, it doesn't really matter which one he did. And then he spends one more to put out his own Hunter. So a lot of Hunters in Black Forest we're seeing in this game, and he decides to try and just trade with one of Chris's other Hunters. So trying to clear the board a little bit. Not the best position for Bahamut Burn to be in, to a clear field and tapped out against an aggressive deck, but we'll see what Steven has in mind. So Chris plays one of the big cards for odd Grimm Aggro, Oz the Great Magician. Lets him search for any of his 1-drop spells, and boy does the deck run a lot of them. A very, very powerful card. He can search for Dreams of Wonderland, Thunder, Rapid Decay, Duel of Truth. The side is Crime and Punishment. So a lot of stuff like that. Oz is a very major contender for this deck. Plus being a 600 allows him to put some more damage on the field per attack. So he grabs a Rapid Decay. Makes me think that he already has a Thunder or a Dreams in hand, and then swings in for a 300 damage against Steven, who can't do anything about it, bringing him down to 3,100. Steven plays 40 Thieves, trying to dig a little deeper into his deck. I see 3 Whispers in the Dark in his hand. I don't really know if right now he wants to keep any of those, considering the fact that he's so low life. So he chooses to discard 1. Yeah, he chooses to discard both. At this point in time, already being down to almost 3,000 life, Whispers in the Dark is not something he wants to be playing, especially since he's playing against a more aggressive deck. He could easily put him in a quick position to easily get just swarmed and overtaken really quickly. This is another key play on turn 4 and beyond for Odd Grimm, playing Oz and having the mana up to be able to play a spell. So he does play the Oz. I'm assuming, I would guess probably at this time he wants to grab a Dream of Wonderland. But he just chooses to grab a Thunder, probably thinking that he wants to just go ahead and be able to burn, or if his Hunter is going to get blocked, he can quickly just wipe out that 40 Thieves, which I think is a good position to be in right now. Oh, and he plays the Rapid Decay to just get that out of the way. That's a very good play, so he can save the Thunder for when it needs to. And there's another 900 damage, bringing Stephen down to 2200. So Stephen's in a bad way right now. He's a burn deck. He's at almost half life against a deck that is just continuing to push and push. So hopefully he's getting to a point where a J-Activate almost kind of needs to happen in order to be able to quickly recover and reestablish, but I don't know if this deck from Stephen really utilizes Bahamut as at least in quickly, because I'm not really seeing a lot of. He decides to play Whispers in the Dark. I will see how much he decided to pay. So he paid 1,000 for that. Draw 2 cards, putting him down to 1,200. That is a risky play against a deck where I see, yeah, he doesn't know this, but he's already seen 1 Thunder drawn to Chris's hand, and he never knows how quickly it would be to just find a second one, putting him down within that close to dual Thunder range, with only 2 mana up to be able to establish blocker presence. Yeah, he just goes ahead and scoops at that point, because there was really nothing he was going to be able to do. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and go into game 2. So Stephen's going to be going first. Hopefully this game he can establish a little bit more. Chris was just answering every single one of his plays. See some addition. This is a very interesting Bahamut deck because it seems to use a lot of additions. He decides to mulligan just one. Looks like it was a second Dragon King's Flame that he put down there, or a yellow sign. I couldn't quite tell. Chris's hand looking fairly solid. Plays a quick black goat to be able to put some kind of creature on the board. Chris hits that blue, which kind of hurts for his spell lineup for what he had in there. Is all red spells. I see Thunder, Rapid Decay, those kind of things. That's pretty unfortunate. The deck doesn't run too many basic waters. Most of them are fire, but sometimes you just get a rough stone off the top. Second black goat, quick 200 damage, venom attack from Stephen against Chris, bringing him down to 38. 3,800. So Stephen's kind of in a good position here. He only has 1 red spell that he's going to have to deal with potentially, and he's already got some creatures on board. Decides to quickly burn Chris for 700 damage with Purifying Fire, and then swing in for... Yeah, Chris tells him to only swing in it once at a time, because he's going to quickly Thunder one of them to prevent some of the damage, and then take another 200. So Chris is now down to 2,900 to Stephen's 40. At this point in time, probably a good idea for Durand to try and pitch. Oh man, with Chris's hand being what it is, I would have used that free mana to pitch probably that Etna that he has in his hand, and maybe try and grab a Cheshire Cat or something, just to be able to draw a little bit more, or even a March Hare. But he decides to play an Oz to get a quick spell search. The beauty thing about Grimm is that you can pay 1 mana, pitch a Fairy Tale, and search for any Fairy Tale in your deck. But if you do that during the draw step, you can just quickly untap that mana. So if you have a mana left over at the end of your turn, or at the end of your opponent's turn, you can get a free search out of it. Decides to grab that Dreams of Wonderland. He wants to make sure to be able to have a blue spell now that he has that solid blue mana to make better use of his whole mana pool. That is a lot of fire spells in the hand of Stephen. I see. Unfortunately, he's not hitting any of his black sources, so he's not going to be able to play the Bind of Gravity he has there for a while, which would be really good right now. Decides to do another quick 800 damage to Chris, bringing him down to 21. Dragon King's Flame is a very, very powerful spell when you're using Bahamut/Vault Gold, the Dragoon. Just a quick instant speed 800 damage to player, resonator, anything like that. Very, very good. It is a 3-drop, which costs a lot, but at the same time, it can be devastating. Throws a quick Rapid Decay to clear the space. Puts out a Hunter, trying to be able to pile on that damage. Swings for 600. And then swings for another 3. So a quick 900 damage. So he's starting to move things back. And then decides to pass turn to his opponent. See a Crime and Punishment in Chris's hand. Hoping that maybe he can punish Stephen for making a play with a monster. But that doesn't really seem to be Stephen's game plan right now. He's just primarily sticking to the spells. So there's another 800 damage. Just very, very quickly. And the thing is, also he has the black goats in his grave, so he could have used those to do a little bit more damage. And I don't know necessarily why he didn't, but maybe he's waiting to use them at the end of Chris's turn. Because now Chris is at 1300, and I see he has that other Dragon King's Flame in his hand. So it could easily put Chris within just a simple burn range. Simple burning for game. Chris plays a March Hare, one of the key cards. It sucks that he got it this late, but it is what it is. Stephen chooses not to use anything in response, and just goes into his next turn. Again, in this situation, I mean, he's trying to burn his opponent very quickly, so I would have just simply, here's the black, plays a Dragon King's Flame, and then a second Dragon King's Flame, just to deal that final 1600 damage to Chris and end the game. Could have easily put him in a little bit lower with just the black goats, but he decided to go straight for the spell lineup. So, going into game 3, Chris is going to be going first, and I see a very solid opening hand. A lot of those additions for Stephen. But Stephen decides to mulligan one away. And Durand is debating whether or not to hold on to let go of any of that. Decides to keep it all. Plays a quick March Hare, gets that out there very quickly. Very powerful card to be able to play first turn. 500 damage starting turn 2 and beyond is very, very good. You see that Hunter in Black Forest. Chris taking a quick 300. Now in this situation, I probably wouldn't have even swung with that Hunter, because now that March Hare has a free swing for 500 damage plus whatever else Chris decides to throw out on board. He could have used that Hunter as a quick block against the March Hare and still been able to remove it. So there's 2 more Hunters in Black Forest. That is going to be very painful. So he's going to quickly trade and then swing in for 500. Has to reveal the top card of his deck, make sure it's odd. And it is. It's Dreams of Wonderland, so he gets that 500 damage, and then another 300. So there's a quick 800 damage on turn 2. Chris should be putting that card back face down, but I guess just kind of forgot about it, / intends to just draw it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So Stephen is, quickly going to try and kill that March Hare. Very important because Marsh Hare can just be incredibly devastating. And then a quick Blackout. I see 2 Dreams of Wonderland, it looks like, a Blazer and a Duel of Truth in Chris's hand. Not ideal, but also not terrible. Stephen just decides to take the 300 damage, putting him down to 2,900. And then with that, Chris is just going to have to pass his turn, I think. Yep, decides to pass it to Stephen. One of the key things to note about Grimm is that it does utilize Treasure Cat a lot, being able to research. I don't know why Chris hasn't been doing that very much, but it is a very tricky card. Robo the Fire Rat is coming out on Steven's side. Very interesting tech choice. It's a simple field treasury item that you can tap to prevent all damage from target Fire Resonator until the end of the turn. Very, very powerful card right now, especially since he's just seeing those hunters. By playing that card, he's essentially turned off that hunter in the Black Forest or any other bigger fire creature as much as he wants. Swings in for that quick 200 damage, which Chris is going to just go ahead and take, putting Chris at 3,500. Didn't see what he drew. He drew into a second Blazer. Very tricky card. Right now he's just 1 mana short from being able to play that Blazer. But he's also currently got to deal with that Black Goat. I see that Duel of Truth he has in his hand. He's going to try and swing in. He's going to attempt to negate the damage. Now would be a good time, I think, to utilize that Duel of Truth, but Durand just lets it slide. I think he's trying to save that Duel of Truth when he gets a Blazer out onto the field, which isn't a bad idea. Another Black Goat, getting those early damages in and a free 200 damage against Durand, who's thinking about whether or not to play a spell at this point. Plays a Dreams of Wonderland to attempt to bounce it back to the field. Has to reveal that top card. It's Tinkerbell. That's good to see for Chris, being able to see a fairy tale off the top, because that means he'll be able to hopefully be able to pitch it possibly into a Cheshire Cat or something like that. Maybe an Oz the Great Magic. During the draw phase, yep, he's going to pitch that Tinkerbell. At this point, Tinkerbell is... Oh, he's going to use Duel of Truth to try and quickly... Oh, I see what he's doing. He's going to try to bait out the Row of the Fire Rat. And then also still during draw phase, maybe he's going to pitch that Tinkerbell. At this point, I really would, but he decides against it. He decides to just go ahead and straight untap. I think an Oz the Great Magician would have been a really great call. He plays that 5, slams down a Blazer. It's got swiftness. It's 1,100 damage. It's very, very powerful, potent card that never dies once it hits the board, because it'll just get removed from game by its own effect, and then you can play it from your removed from game zone. So that Blazer is never dead as of now. So he's debating whether or not to attempt to block. 1,100 damage. He's thinking about whether or not he could take that. He does. He just takes all of it, putting him down to 18. So a very nice play by Durand, being able to bait out that Robe of the Fire Rat. Oh, a Glyph of Unkill is going to be slammed down on that Blazer. He doesn't want to be having to deal with that for too much longer. Just means at the end of Durand's next turn, Blazer's going to die. Pretty simple as that. And with that Robe of the Fire Rat, he's not too concerned about the Blazer. Plus with putting out a field of blockers. There's a handful of burn spells on Stephen's side of things. And a quick yellow sign is going to deal -300 to Hunter in the Black Forest, essentially just becoming a 2-drop quick removal to kill that Hunter in the Black Forest off. So now he doesn't have to deal with 2 Fire Resonators with that Robe of the Fire Rat. And then he swings in for the quick 400 damage against Durand, who can't do anything about it. So bringing him down to 31 to Stephen's 18. Blazer's going to get brought back up again. He's going to attempt to bait out the Robe of the Fire Rat, tap another 5, and then play his second Blazer and just be able to swing in for another free 1100 damage. Putting Stephen down to 700 life, 3100 for Durand and 700 for Stephen. And then he's going to play a Dreams of Wonderland, get a Hunter in Black Forest to put Blazer back in his hand. I don't necessarily see the point of that, really, because he's going to be able to replay Blazer from his hand anyway, from the remove from game anyway. I feel like that might have been a not optimal play, but still very good. Just preventing any kind of death from Blazer as much as possible is always good, and he can potentially bait out Robe of the Fire Rat later. So she had Thunder, Purifying Fire, looks like maybe a Split Heaven and Earth, and a Thunder. In Stephen's hand. Not optimal plays right now for anything. Oh, a Flames of Dark World. Or Flames of Outer World. Trying to get that burn damage in a different light. It doesn't really help too much right now. He's gonna try and I think he's gonna try and burn Blazer to death. So he lets that resolve. And then is just gonna crash both of his black goats into the Blazer to kill it. Blazer's gonna get removed from the game, and then he'll be able to be played back next turn. Again, like I said, very rough position for Stephen to be in right now. 700 life left. He's got to deal with 2 Blazers potentially. He's gonna try and quickly burn Chris for 700 damage, bringing him down to 2400. So 2400 to 700, only 1 Mana Stone up, and Chris is going to be drawing into a Fairy Tale. And he's got access to Blazers. Chris has a lot of mana right now. Very, very tricky situation. He knows he's got to deal with Robe of the Fire Rat, so he's going to be able to throw out that enough damage to be able to get through, but he also knows that potentially his opponent has some kinds of burn options in his hand. That's always being present with that, so he's got to be able to put damage on board effectively enough that he can possibly bait out something and then be able to make a Blazer play. I see, looks like double Tinkerbell, Blazer, and Hunter in Black Forest. attempts to swing in. His opponent lets that go through. Wow. Yeah, and then this really sets up Chris's next play very obviously, since that damage go through. That was very interesting. Stephen was just afraid of that damage. Yeah, and he's gonna quickly grab Oz the Great Magician to be able to play hit, tap 3, and then he's gonna search. He said them shook hands there. This is why. So he's gonna quickly search for a Thunder, and then just be able to have enough mana to play that extra 500 damage. So yeah, that was odd Grimm Aggro with Chris Durand going against Red-Black Bahamut Burn, piloted by Stephen Naumovski here at the first round of Gamers Gauntlet's Caturday event. Tune back in tomorrow, guys. We're going to be skipping ahead to round 3 because round 2 is the mirror match, and we're going to be saving the mirror match footage for the top 8 game. So just tune back in tomorrow when we'll see what else Chris is going to have to go through on his quest to try and break in the top 8 here at Gamers Gauntlet's Caturday. Let me know what you thought of the match, and as always, like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, guys, this is DMO73 signing off.